Welcome to Does It Matter by Brainy Ballers, where we dissect the game with cutting-edge analytics to give you the upper hand. We analyze everything from hand sizes to average depth of targets to uncover hidden trends that no one else sees. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to data-driven domination. Because here at Brainy Ballers, we don't just watch the game, we understand it. So get ready, it's podcast time.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something a bit counterintuitive maybe. Does a linebacker's weight really predict how well they'll do in the NFL, especially for fantasy? You know, common sense often screams, bigger's the better, right? But we got some research here that digs into the actual data. So let's unpack this and see what shakes out.
Exactly. The goal here is pretty straightforward. Take this, fairly complex analysis and boil it down. We want to give you practical insights, cut through some of that noise, and figure out what actually matters when you're looking at these players.
Okay, let's start right there with the how. How did they even set this up? What was the methodology?
Right, so they looked at the top 50 fantasy finishers each season, going all the way back to 2003, and they defined the bottom 10 within that group as players ranking 41st to 50th.
Top 50. Why that number specifically?
Well, it hits a kind of happy medium. You get enough top performers, but you avoid, the really fringe guys way down the list who might skew the data.
Mm-hmm.
It lets you compare the cream of the crop against those who are good, but maybe just a step below the elite.
Makes sense. So they crunched the numbers. And what did they find initially?
This is where it starts getting really interesting. There was this subtle trend, but it was consistent. Smaller linebackers, they actually showed up more often in the very top group, like the top 5 or top 10. In fact, get this, in 13 of the 21 seasons, that's 62% of the time, the average weight of the top 10 finishers was the same or even lower than the average weight of that bottom 10 group.
Wow. Okay, that definitely goes against the grain. So if smaller guys are popping up more at the top, how do they figure out if there's an optimal weight? Like a specific range?
Good question. They used something called a differences chart, basically comparing the top 10 versus the bottom 10 across these little 5-pound weight increments. And after digging deeper, that optimal range, it really got refined. The highest producing range was pinpointed. It's between 217 and 252 pounds.
217 to 252, okay.
Yeah. And what's really striking here, this specific range, it boasted an 18.8% higher appearance rate in top 10 finishers since 2003. An almost 19% higher hit rate in that specific zone. But, okay, here's the big question. How much can we actually rely on that? Is it just a correlation or is it predictive? Did they test the statistical significance?
Yes, the predictability part. This is crucial. They used a statistical measure, the Pearson value, to see how strong that link really is. For linebacker weight and fantasy success, the value was...
Do you want to start dominating your drafts? At BrainyBallers.com, we've researched every metric under the sun for you to find which ones are best linked to fantasy points. You can access hundreds of metrics to sharpen your scouting ability so you know which metrics matter and which are just noise. Stop guessing on which thresholds to look for within each metric. Big numbers can be misleading or irrelevant. Our Ultimate Athlete Blueprints reveal essential scouting metrics, their importance and benchmarks within each metric that help predict a player's probability of being a success or bust. Elevate your scouting ability with Brainy Ballers' Ultimate Athlete Blueprints today. Click the link in the description. Now back to the show.
0.098.
0.098. What does that mean in plain English?
It means basically there's no statistically significant correlation. It's really close to zero. Generally, especially for elite athletes, you want to see at least 0.1 for a factor to be considered predictive on its own. So it just missed that mark.
Right. And just for some context, right, something everyone agrees matters a lot, like a running back's draft capital.
Yeah, how high they were picked in the draft.
Right. That had a Pearson value of negative 0.234. That shows you the difference. So while the trend for weight is there, you can't really hang your hat on it as a standalone predictor based on this.
Okay, got it. Trend, yes. Strong predictor, no. But is this trend something new? Or has it always been there? Is this 217, 252 range becoming more important now?
Yeah, they looked into that too, comparing decades. They did a decadal differences analysis. And it turns out this isn't just some old pattern. It seems to be a growing trend.
Oh, really?
Yes. In the more recent decade, the rate of players in that optimal 217, 252 pound range appearing in the top 10 compared to the bottom 10 was actually higher than in the earlier decade. So if anything, this observation seems to be getting even more relevant over time.
So let's try and bring it all together for you, the listener. We've pinpointed what looks like a promising weight range, 217, 252 pounds, for linebackers. It seems to consistently correlate with higher success rates, at least in terms of fantasy finishes.
However, and this is a big however, while weight shows some correlation, that Pearson value, just barely missing that significant mark, it means it's definitely not an absolute predictor.
Right.
It absolutely shouldn't be used as like your only factor when you're scouting players. It's just one piece of the puzzle, which really raises an important question for you to think about. If a player's weight isn't a standalone predictor, what other subtle factors, maybe physical, maybe intangible, might also correlate with success but not solely predicted on their own? And maybe more importantly, how might you combine these different insights, maybe even things outside traditional stats, in your own player evaluations? Something to chew on for your next deep dive.